Broadcasting from Detroit's Cass Corridor, it's the Metro on WDET. I'm Tia Graham. Coming up, the month of April is National Poetry Month, and it honors Arab American Heritage Month. Next month, InsideOut Literary Arts will host its annual Youth Poetry Slam, inviting audiences a seat at the kids' table where real discussions are happening. Then we'll continue to highlight the power of poetry with Iraqi-American poet and mentor InsideOut, Wafa Mustafa. And Russ McNamara brings us a comical conversation about those losing Detroit Lions and the culture built around a legacy of losing. But first, we talk a lot about youth voices on the Metro. Yet I ask the question again, are we actually listening to our young people? Regardless, they want to share their thoughts and they want a say in their own futures. So what does it look like when space and opportunity is granted for us to listen? What happens when we give teens the literary tools to express themselves? The Detroit Youth Poetry Slam, hosted by performer and InsideOut coach LaShawn Phoenix Moore, will gather 15 talented young artists together to compete and connect with their peers and community. The Poetry Slam is happening Thursday, May 7th at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. Joining me now to talk a little bit more about the Teen Youth Poetry Slam are two guests. Jassmine Parks is a program coordinator at InsideOut Literary Arts, and she is a 2021 Kresge Artist Fellow and an award-winning poet. And we also have Justin Roger, who is the manager of InsideOut's award-winning after-school program, Citywide Poets. Justin is also an alum of InsideOut. Justin and Jassmine, welcome to the Metro.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing
hey,
well.
Tia.
Hello. What up, though? So, jumping right into things, Justin, for people who've never been to a poetry slam before, especially a youth poetry slam, what can they expect?
They can expect poets to come up to the stage and really showcase what poetry can do off of the page. We think about poetry usually as rhyming, usually as something that we're looking at on a page. We're thinking Shakespeare, we're thinking Maya Angelou, and those are all valid forms of poetry. But this really takes poetry and allows you to hear it, feel it, see it, sense it, really get all of the senses, and then have only a few moments to take a quick breath before the next poet is up there. Now you have to consume what they're laying down. So it's really a high energy opportunity for youth to get out, say what they have to say, and for the audience to sit down and listen, which is really the most important part. So InsideOut's 2026 Detroit Youth Performance Troupe. Now, I want to know a little bit more about the performance troupe because where are you getting these kids to populate it? Yes, absolutely. So the 2026 Performance Troupe, and we've done the troupe. It's all right. We've done the troupe for a number of years now, and that replaced what was once our slam team, which for those who are poets and in slam understand that slams usually are to make teams of poets that go on and they compete in larger slams. It's a bit of a system. But this really focuses the students to have an opportunity to perform in and around the city and get their chops up as community members. This isn't just so they can compete. These are students who have competed in one of two InsideOut Poetry Slams and then are invited to interview with Coach LaShawn Phoenix Moore and Coach Alana Gracie to see if they have what it takes to be a part of this larger initiative to be a part of the community, represent InsideOut, and represent themselves in the community.
Jassmine, we're going to get to you in a moment because I definitely want to talk about what this means, especially for someone who's been a part of Def Poetry Jam and who's been a part of something that kind of travels a little bit. So we're going to get back to that. But really quickly, Justin, you said that this event is about community over competition, even though it is a competition. So how does community outweigh the competition?
It outweighs competition in every shape or form. Even to have a competition, you must first have a community of folks who want to compete and a community of folks who want to listen, as well as a community of folks who want to do the judging. It's all built up of communities. It's not just about the community, though. It's about the intention behind the community. So we root our after-school program, Citywide Poets, is where these students who are competing come from. And we root that program in community, in uplifting one another, in not allowing any speech that tears each other down, but still also allowing space for students to say what they need to say and then have conflicts challenged, to have new ideas challenged, to have old ideas challenged, and all of that builds community. So what you're seeing when you come to a poetry slam is a manifestation of some sort of community, and this just has another 5, 6, 7 layers of intention behind it. We're not just saying, hey, get up there and throw words at the wall and get some points. No, we're saying, think about it. Have a conversation with your peers, revise. Let's think about a new idea. How can we take this poem and think about it as larger than a poem? And one last thing I'll say is I learned this from Erica Foreman, who once told me that poetry is a means of archive. Poets are archivists. We are capturing moments in history and moments in our lives that at some point will become history. And if we don't share that, then it's lost. It's gone. So again, Poetry Slam is just another opportunity for that poetry community to share these archives with the larger community.
Thank you for explaining that. And Jassmine, I heard you agreeing as well. When you think about community over competition, why is it so important when we talk about Detroit's young poets?
Yeah, I think it's so important because competition can suck the air out of like a poem that is really meaningful. It pits people against each other, but for young people, the camaraderie is what joins them together. Once you step into the space, you are instantly greeted by an opening circle of seeing young poets coming together, literally in this unbroken shape, this cyclical shape, and thinking about how story transfers from one person to another person, and how much blood, sweat, tears, how much sweat equity actually goes into putting into an actual poem that conveys how you feel emotionally, and then conveying in a way that is sonically, and then having the entire audience embody what you're talking about. You have to take the competition is important from the aspect that it lets you have a bar that is high for performance and for the written work to meet itself at a high level. But the camaraderie, the connection, to seeing each other, the hearing each other, and coming together is really beautiful to witness, because it's saying, like, in a space where usually young people are written off, this is a space where they are written in. They write themselves in. It ain't waiting for the grown people to say, hey, we want to hear what you think. It's about them declaring that they have something that is so pressing, weighing on their chest that it needs to get out, and that they're making that space intentionally so, and that they're holding each other up while they're doing this work instead of pushing each other out.
Now, Jassmine, I love, the way that you presented that, because once again, earlier when I talk about the kids' table, if we could just put a mic at the kids' table, or the table where we push the teens and the kids away, we would hear some of the things that you all have been able to hear through their poetry. Mm-hmm. For yourself, Jassmine, did educational settings ever foster your passion for poetry?
As soon as that question came up, the first person that came in my mind was my 9th grade English teacher, Miss Lewis. During Poetry Month, she had us listening to the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, which I had experienced through my sister, opening that whole portal to me. But this was a deeper listening that took place, and having that as a poetic analysis, breaking it down, thinking about young people, even on the interludes of that, speaking to what love is, and that they have access to experience what love is in different ways, including like romantic or longing ways, right? And them defining it. And through that portal of us being introduced to Lauryn Hill in such an intentional way, she had said that we were able to write poems and they did not have to be censored at all. I took that and ran with it and thought that all I could do was cuss. I cussed so many times in my poems, and I was like, it is freedom of expression. But it definitely was like, I was trying to see how much of the boundaries that I could push in saying the things that I could. And in that space, it definitely was allowed. And then she partnered with another teacher who introduced us to spoken word poetry through Def Poetry Jam, named Mr. Hall. And that was the first time. I used to rap at a point in time, but that was the first time that I seen poetry become like alchemy for like personal feelings, and saying like you could be vulnerable and you could be soft and you could take a thing and it can transform who you are. And I was learning that at 15 years old. And on top of that, the 9th graders were paired with the senior class, and there were a couple cute boys in there.
Okay, so it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt at all. At all.
I was writing love poems.
Oh,
to
yeah.
best friends.
Oh, yeah. That alchemy would have been working for me, too. This is The Metro. I'm Tia Graham. Our guests are Justin Rogers and Jassmine Parks, program managers with InsideOut Literary Arts. And we're talking about InsideOut Literary Arts Youth Slam Poetry Competition happening May 7th at the Wright. Now, I do want to get down, because we're getting down here, I do want to get to Aaron Mahone with the poem Mama. Now, when I listened to this poem, I instantly thought to myself, like, once again, this is showcasing the power of teens and the way that they can express themselves and how they live their lives. So here is Mama by Aaron Mahone.
My mother doesn't want me to grow up because it reminds her of death, reminds her of my father. And her greatest fear is what happens to a boy after he breaks his shell and starts his path into manhood. So she likes to hold on to the silhouette of picture frames because she can fit me in them, hold me, and not let me go. Told me not to grow up because we both know all the men of my family wash ashore after drunken nights, after wine baths in their own past, rugged and full of regrets. And my mother likes to bathe in the reality where I don't grow up too fast in, where I'm not rugged or shattered, where I'm nothing like my father, where men are more than thinning incense slowly fading away by their own breath. All the men in my life faded away.
Listening to that for myself, when I first listened to Aaron's poem, I thought to myself, I can see so many men from my own family within this, and men within our own societies within this. I can see my nephew in this, or my brother. So, Justin, when you hear teens speak this way, are you ever shocked at how introspective they are?
Absolutely. Every single time. I think we automatically, in this power structure of being an adult and like working with youth, are kind of automatically in this space of like, you're going to be a kid.
Yep.
And we should expect kids to be kids. I never want to take that away from them. But every day they have something where it's like, oh, wow, you're on your way to being an adult. And in that on your way to being an adult, there's so much for me to learn as an adult and discover about what I did or did not process through when I was a young person. So I think this brings that up a lot. Just watching Aaron have written this poem and edit this poem and then do it on stage multiple times. Like, Aaron developed over time, tried out for what was at that point our slam team, now our performance troupe, twice, and the first time didn't make it, and then just had a vengeance to come back. Like, I have to write stronger poems. I have to edit these poems out. I know my words are strong enough. I know my thoughts are good enough. I know that the audience connects with what I say, and I know that just because I didn't win a slam doesn't mean I'm not valuable. I want to go out there and do it again and see if I can score higher so I can do this other thing that'll propel my career forward. And it's shocking every time. And Aaron went on to write multiple more poems and is doing music now and is doing amazing work. So it's really a springboard in a lot of ways.
And when you hear those words from Aaron, Justin, did you see yourself in it instantly?
Absolutely. I was not anticipating doing poetry at all whatsoever. So when Nandi Comer found me in high school, in Cody High School, West Side, and, just kind of invited me, and I found poetry in education during school as well. I had a teacher, I could not tell you what her name was, but she gave us an assignment to write a couple of poems, and this is my origin story, write a couple of poems, and it was right before a break. And during the break, I went to New York for it had me like a spring break, maybe a couple of days, something like that. And I missed this girl back here in Detroit so much that I had to write a couple of love poems. Like, this is my thing. This is it. So like that really like was what got me going. I know, it's so cute.
I know.
And to go from I'm going to write a couple of cutesy love poems because I need to get this out of my system to writing things that, get published places that like have a real deep meaning, not just of me, but the other folks who are reading it. I want to make it clear that any young person can take that path and there is a career in it. Yes, with money. It's true. You don't have to be a starving artist, or it can just be a hobby. Or it could be something you share with nobody, or you could do it and 20 other things. Like, there are so many possibilities, and I think we sometimes get limited when we hear teasers And this is not to blame any teacher, because I think teachers only have so much time with each individual and they're doing their best. But you hear a teacher say, you're not going to make a living being a writer or a creative. Yes, you are. It takes work, and you're going to find the right folks to support you in that. And InsideOut is here to do that.
I love that. So as we get down, I love that. So as we get down here to the wire of our conversation, Jassmine, just listening to Justin's words and listening to your words as well. I mean, you're 15, you're both are young people, you know, having thought processes and really looking inward at a time when a lot of us are just not into that. Why is it so important, you think, though, for adults to show up and listen to youth voices at events like this one?
Young people are the now generation. They're not just the future generation. They are the generation that has always moved movements for us, right? We think about the civil rights movement. Exactly. We think about LGBT queer movements. Yeah. We think about young people being at the front lines and them having their voices and being brave to use them. So that's because they have a power and a frequency. When we show up and we actually listen to what their observations of what is happening internally and how they're registering and seeing the larger world, like when we just stop and we take into consideration, because we're grown people, we have to take care of bills and livelihood. We're moving at the rate of bullet trains. Young people have, you know, the privilege of time in a different way, where they are experiencing it at a slower rate, so they're able to tap in and observe things in which we're like, we have to make sure what dinner is taken care of. Our kids are solidified, right? That did we take care of something that we enjoy doing? Did we meet up with our friends and take care of our family members and such and such and such? But young people are coming into their own, and they're coming into their peer circles, and they are learning how to read the room, learning how to read the world, and learning how to read themselves in very powerful points at this stepping into their own identity phase. And we should support that. That is the bridge to adulthood. It's treat them like they matter right now, because they do.
Yeah.
Justin Rogers is a poet and storyteller and the manager of the award-winning after-school program InsideOut Citywide Poets. We have Jassmine Parks, is a spoken word poet and a 2021 Kresge Artist Fellow, and is a program coordinator at InsideOut Literary Arts. I want to say thank you to you both for joining us on the Metro. And don't forget, if you want to see these kids hit the stage, they're hitting the stage, the Youth Slam Poetry Competition. It's happening May 7th at the Wright, and it is free and open to all. Thank you both so much for being here.
And thank you for giving us some time.
Thank you. Peace.
Peace. Coming up, we'll continue discussing the power of poetry with Wafa Mustafa and learn how she's using her pen and using her voice to document our place in this time. You all stay right there. We'll be right back. This is The Metro.